Hello everyone, welcome along to another custom tactics tutorial here for FIFA 23 on the channel. I'm Ash, or Brommer18, whichever you prefer. Today we are continuing our custom tactics tutorial series where I want to talk about more instructions, in particular explaining all of the midfielders player instructions in the custom tactics scene of FIFA 23. We've already done one video covering all defenders instructions explained, so if you haven't seen that one, please do go and check that out, and that will help you with all the defenders instructions, and you'll also get some lead on to this episode as well. Before we get into it, I want to say, if you haven't done so already, check out my gaming podcast, brand new gaming podcast, down below, covering all things video games. It is the Ash Bros Gaming Podcast. You can get links to all of your podcast apps or the video version in the description down below. Lots of great topics that we cover on there, so I really would appreciate it. And also check out my Patreon. The link is in the description. You can get access to a range of fantastic perks, such as my custom tactics package, exclusive tactics videos that we don't cover on the channel, behind the scenes videos, early access to videos, Discord server access, and lots of fantastic perks. A great way to support the channel if you can afford it. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and ring the bell to get notifications every time I upload. And with that being said, let's get into it. So first things first, just using Benfica as a random example, with regards to the midfielders, we're going to cover the defensive midfield, central midfield, and the attacking midfield instructions today, and they've all got different instructions, as you can see, different roles. So starting off with the defensive midfielder, first things first, you've got defensive behaviour, and in this you've got cut passing lanes, balanced, and man mark. Now I'm going to say this out right now, man mark does not work on this game. Your midfielders, regardless of whether or not you've set them to man mark or cut passing lanes, will not track opposition midfielders, particularly in situations where the opposition midfielders are making runs into the box, so the opposition want to cut back to them. Your midfielders just will not track them, full stop. So basically we never use it. It's a massive issue. They just will not fix it for whatever reason. Partly why they obviously like just defending to be really hard in the game so that there's lots of goals. So yeah, unfortunately it doesn't work. You're supposed to kind of man up with that, but it doesn't happen. So the best thing to really do is cut passing lanes, and what that does is it really helps, particularly with pressing. What it will do is basically take more of a zonal approach, instigate what I call a lane press, and that means they're really going to try and get in front of the opposition player and cut out any passes to them, and that's really the best one to use. It's probably the one that we kind of exclusively use in this game. You can sometimes use balanced. It helps just to kind of retain their shape a little bit better than obviously man marking. So if you do want a man marking system, the best thing to go with is balanced, because then at least there will be a little bit more varied. With attacking support, you've obviously got balance, you've got stay back while attacking, get forward, and drop between the defenders. So first things first, with balance, it's going to be very much dependent on, one, your tactical system overall, how many players you have getting into the box, etc. What's the kind of approach with regards to, is it on fast build-up, slow build-up, forward runs? Also, it's going to depend on their work rate as well. So, for example, with Florentino Luis here, he's got a high defensive work rate and a medium attacking work rate. So if unbalanced, he's less likely to make those constant bombarding runs going forward. Still might do occasionally, but on medium he's less likely to than high. With stay back while attacking, naturally does what it says on the tin. These guys aren't going to be kind of storming forward. They are pretty much going to play that role of the pivot. They're going to stick to their defensive position, deeper than the central midfielder, just in front of the defence, screen that back line, and that is what they're going to look to do. With get forward, they're going to be making those darting runs. They're going to be getting forward. Now, I always say, if you want to actually recreate the role of a box-to-box central midfielder on this game, so let's think of someone like Goretzka, for example, who is that true kind of box-to-box midfielder, I think it's actually better to set them to CDM and have them on get forward, because not only are they going to be running forward, but they're also going to be deeper in defence because they're on defensive midfield rather than central midfield, so they are going to help in both phases at the maximum level, and that's really what you want. So if you want a box-to-box central midfielder, set them on get forward. You also have drop between defenders, and I've had some people asking me about this. What does this actually do? Well, what you'll notice occasionally, and the kind of systems I will allude to is kind of Leeds is Bielsa's Leeds, for example, where Calvin Phillips would often do this. When the fullbacks or wing backs get forward, what you'll then do is the defensive midfielder will drop off and form a back three with the defence, and that's what drop between the defenders do. It's a really weird instruction. I think this is why people get confused about it, because it says neutral behaviour where players maintain their shape. I don't know what that means. Just ignore that completely. They'll drop between the defenders. The two centre backs will split off a little bit, helps to form a back three, gives you an extra layer of protection, whilst your wing backs or full backs will get forward more. Really, really good. Helps with kind of possessional systems. It's probably the best for those kind of high possession, high line systems, and it can definitely work in the right system. Interceptions we covered in the defenders video, so we're not going to talk too much about this. The thing is mainly to notice that I will kind of push out is when on aggressive interceptions and they're going to try and impose themselves on the opposition more and really win the ball aggressively, that will drain stamina more. So do just bear that one in mind compared to conservative interceptions. It does help with that press. But if you want a more detailed explanation on it, go and check out my defenders instructions explained video. We've got defensive position, which is cover wing and cover centre. Cover centre, they're very much going to be, as it says on the tin again, they're going to stick to those central areas. They're not going to get dragged out wide. They're not going to leave acres of space. Very, very good for if you've got one holding midfielder and two central midfielders who are then going to get spread out wide. He can maintain that position in the centre. Cover wing is going to be if, say, for example, you've got the wingers, you've got the fullback has overlapped, the wingers forward, there's lots of space on that side. That defensive midfielder or central midfielder is then going to come out wide. He's going to get dragged out to lock down that space if and when the opposition try to capitalise on it. So just worth bearing in mind that you always want someone covering centre. With positioning freedom, a couple of changes to it this year. Stick to position, very, very self-explanatory. You know, they are just going to remain within whatever position they are. Drift wide is going to be where they are going to make runs to show for the ball in the wide areas. So think of something like what Kevin De Bruyne does for Man City, where he's often making dashes into the right hand side, the right channels, except in this case with the defensive midfielder they're doing it from a deeper position. Don't think you'll need to use it much. It can help to play out from the back a little bit if you want to try and get in the wide areas more, because then they're going to make those sprints out wide. With deep line playmaker, this is definitely the most effective one. What they're going to do is they're going to drift around, find pockets of space and show for the ball to help you play out from the back. Works much better than what Free Roam did last year, in which they would often dart forward a lot more. Deep line playmaker this time, they are going to keep in that deeper position, but they're going to show for the ball. They're going to drift from side to side and just find those pockets of space. So that can be really helpful as well. With regard to the central midfielder, a lot of these are the same. So interceptions and attacking support, we've already spoken about. One thing I would say with attacking support, a central midfielder, you don't want dropping between defenders, even though that instruction is on. It should be the defensive midfielder. The central midfielder is naturally going to be further up. So it's a bit counterproductive to really have him on drop between defenders, so do just bear that one in mind. You also have the defensive position, cover wing, cover centre. That's pretty much the same. As I spoke about, central midfielders in this case are more likely to get dragged out whilst the defensive midfielder stays in the centre. So support on crosses, let's talk about that. We've got getting to the box across, stay on the edge of the box across, very self-explanatory. Well, the only thing I would say is, again, with balance, very much depending on, one, their attacking work rate. If they're on high, they're very much going to be getting into the box relentlessly. If it's low, you're going to find it being far less prolific in that sense. It's also going to be bearing in mind your tactics as well. Sometimes you might have players in the box up to, say, 10 to get 5 in the box. Even if you've got them on staying on the edge of the box, in that case you might find them still drifting into the box because the tactics are on that. So you've got to make sure that the tactics match up to the player instructions. If you've got one on 10 in the custom tactics, but then on the player instructions no one's getting into the box, it's going to be counterproductive. It's not going to make sense. So just bear that one in mind as well. With positioning freedom, we still have them on drift wide, so we've already spoken about that, but we also have this free roam. And what this is going to do, similar to the deep line playmaker, in that they're going to try and drift around, find pockets of space, but this time they're more likely to do it further up the pitch, which is why it's on free roam rather than deep line playmaker. You might find them doing it in the advanced areas in between the opposition midfield and defence. That's really going to help you out. They're going to drift out wide in certain instances. They're going to really cover a lot of ground, and that's why free roam is different to kind of the deep line playmaker. This can be really, really helpful as well. So let's talk about the attacking midfielders. Again, very, very similar. You've got the likes of drift wide, you've got the likes of free roam. What I would say with free roam on an attacking midfielder is that they're more likely to come deeper and show for the ball, so bear that one in mind as well. If you want someone to take the advanced areas as an attacking midfielder, I wouldn't have this on free roam. I'd have this on stick to position, because free roam, they're going to drop off and come deeper a lot more, and that's what that's going to involve. So do bear that one in mind as well. The only difference you have here is defensive support. Again, quite self-explanatory. Come back on defense, you're going to get them tracking back, stay forward as well. Occasionally there are instances of kind of attacking midfielders not getting back as much, but you have to bear in mind the kind of defensive work rate as well. Everything is bearing that in mind, the likes of the stamina on top of that, and also the tactical shape. So do also have a look into that and take that into account. Something I also want to point out, if you're going to have an attacking midfielder on stay on the edge of the box with a cross, remember that that's going to be different to a central midfielder being on stay on the edge of the box with a cross. So they're going to take up their starting positions more. So the attacking midfielder is still going to be ahead of him, even though the central midfielder is also on the same instruction. Why I'm saying this is just in case you get the wrong idea that because they're both on stay on the edge of the box with a cross, they're both going to get really far forward and then be, saying, outside of the semicircle of the 18-yard box. Not the case. They're very much going to take up their original positions. So something that you need to bear in mind as well. And with that being said, it is time to round it off there. If you've got any questions regarding these instructions, these tactics, anything like that, please do let me know. I will do my best to get back to you in the comment section. We're going to have the next video out where we talk about attackers instructions, going through the wingers and also the strikers as well. So do keep an eye out for that. And we're going to have another video talking through all of the custom tactics. So please do subscribe to the channel, ring the bell to get notifications every time I upload, so then you won't miss that upload. As I spoke about at the start of the video, don't forget to check out my Patreon. The link to that is down below. And also check out my video games podcast. All the links in the description to your favorite podcast apps or the video version on my channel. You can also get access to the podcast YouTube channel. The link to that is in the description or on my channel page. Lots of clips coming from the podcast in and around, so do keep an eye out for that. With that being said, I'm going to finish it off there. Drop a like on the video if you found it helpful and let me know that you want to see more. And until next time, I will see you soon.